How we doing this morning? A little bit better. You're not that far from the beach. This is incredible. All right, so welcome everybody to my keynote. Navigating Change, Thriving in the Evolving Staffing Industry with Robert Reid. Again, that's me. That's this guy. So, before we get started, a little bit of information about Butler Street. This is the organization I work with. I've been with Butler Street for 6 years. We are a management consulting, training, and research firm. We focus on those two most challenging areas that companies face, that is client development and talent development. Now, I think what makes us unique as an organization is we all worked in the staffing industry for quite some time before we got together and said, you know what, let's start an organization that's all about improving the skills of people who work in the staffing industry. So we offer sales training, leadership training, recruitment training, account management training, all of those different things. So, a little bit about me. Who in the world is Robert Reid? So again, yes, been with Butler Street for 6 years, and I live here, not Ponte Vedra, but I live in Jacksonville. So thank you for inviting me to speak at this. It was like a 20-minute drive. I got to wake up in my own bed, no flights. This is amazing. So yeah, I live here in Jacksonville. Worked in the staffing industry for 13 years. I started out with Randstad, where for 11 years I worked for Randstad. And during my time at Randstad, wore a lot of different hats, did sales, recruiting, account management, on-sites, all kinds of different roles. After my stint at Randstad, I joined a smaller healthcare staffing firm just about 3 miles north of here called Human People Solutions. I managed a team of 9 recruiters. We were tasked with finding nurses in the state of South Dakota. You feel my pain. We literally called gas stations to ask if they knew a nurse. We left no stone unturned, but we did. We put 1% of the whole population to work. It was actually a really satisfying time. So the other part of my background is I am an improv actor and comedian. I've been doing improvisational comedy and theater since 1998. If you've ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? That's what I do. That's what this guy does. So I actually left Florida to go to the frozen tundra that is Chicago, Illinois, where for 7 years I studied and performed improvisational comedy and theater. Got hired by a number of theaters up there, most notably the Second City. If you're not familiar with the Second City, you are certainly familiar with their alumni. I'm talking Tina Fey, Bill Murray, Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert. If you're a Ted Lasso fan, Jason Sudeikis. If you're not a Ted Lasso fan, please go watch Ted Lasso. It will change your life. It's like the best TV show ever. Key and Peele, the list goes on and on. It is a powerhouse for comedy. And during my time with the Second City, yes, I just got to travel around and do comedy make-em-ups and just make people laugh. But I also stepped into a role as a training facilitator. And what I would do is I would travel the country and I would help employees from different organizations understand what exactly improv actors are doing on stage to make this very difficult art form work, and how if you take those same techniques and apply it to your role, you just get better at your role. Active listening, deep collaboration, being able to think on your feet. Improv is a huge part of what we do already every single day. So, what is improv? Shout it out. Oh, by the way, my keynotes are very interactive. You're going to be talking a lot, so let's just break the ice on that. So, what is improv? Go ahead and shout it out. How would we define improv? Yes, and we got a pro in the crowd. I love it. Yeah, everybody will get a chance to experience that in just a second. How else we describe improv?
Thinking on your feet.
Yeah. Fast. It's totally fast. What else? Creative. Nobody has said terrifying yet. You were about to say it. Terrifying. Yeah. So, during today's keynote, I'm going to put you through a couple of improv-based exercises. Now, I need some help to get started with this one. This exercise is called What's in the Box? So, this is a very easy exercise. I just need a volunteer to answer some very simple questions for me. Who is that volunteer? Who's my brave volunteer? Actually, it doesn't require that much bravery. It's that easy. All right, thank you. You just saved this entire speech. And your name is?
Ceci.
Ceci, I love it. Give it up for Ceci. Round of applause. The bravest person in the room. All right, Ceci, so here's the thing. Before y'all all got into this room today, we had a FedEx courier come in and deliver an invisible box right on the table in front of you. So what I want you to do is in a second, I want you to just take the lid off of that box and tell everybody in the room what's in the box. Hint, it can be anything. Now, while Ceci is thinking about what's inside the box, the rest of you have a very important role, and that is the second Ceci identifies what is in the box, you must hoop, holler, clap, stomp your feet, and make as much noise as possible. I would like for the Marriott authorities to come in here concerned. Okay, so Ceci, without further ado, take the lid off the box. What is inside the box? A puppy? It's a puppy! Give Ceci a round of applause! Yes! I was looking for a cat, but I will take a puppy. I was taking puppy. Yeah, no, I'm not a cat fan either. I actually love puppies. All right, Ceci, so this puppy is not wearing just puppy fur. It's wearing a puppy outfit. What is this puppy wearing? A sweater! Round of applause for Ceci. That is the correct answer. Yes, I was looking for sweater. Now, here's the great thing about this puppy, Ceci, is when you cuddle this puppy and you pet it, you are imbued with the superpower of your choosing. What is that superpower? It is a good question. Any superpower you want. The ability to fly. That's correct. Give him a round of applause. Nice work, nice work. All right, so why do we do this exercise, Ceci? Thank you. Very, very fine job. Those were all the responses that I was looking for. So why do we do this? Because when we think about improv, there's really two things that we encourage people who do improv. We encourage them to do. One of them is do anything. I literally did not care what Ceci said was inside of the box. Didn't matter. I don't care. The only thing that was important is that he made a choice. Think about it. If he had not made a choice, we would all be sitting here like this. Oh, this is awkward. It's been like 5 minutes. He hasn't said anything yet. Right? That'd be horrible. But he made that choice. That's why you clap, because you're saying, nice work. Thanks for making a choice. Good job. The second thing is that the reason I had all of you clap, hoop, and holler is because that's the feedback Ceci needs to receive in order to keep creating, keep doing. Today is all about navigating change, which means I need people to do things, try different things, and if we push back on that or we ignore these efforts, then they stop. So when we think about improv, improv is about please make a choice, but always celebrate the choices that are made. You want to navigate change? That's the mindset you need to have. So let's talk about that. What's causing change in our industry today? I'm going to come to this side of the room over here, just these 4 tables. What's causing change in our industry? What's causing change? What's causing things to be a little cumbersome, a little tricky right now? Any suggestions? Okay, we'll move to the next 4 tables. No, what do we got? I heard you say something. Rates. Yeah, absolutely. Rates are changing. COVID, that storm has passed, and now we're kind of dealing with all of that. Good. From this general section, what else is causing the change that you're experiencing? What is it? Clinician shortage. Absolutely. What else? Keep them coming. Shout them out. Say it again. State legislation. I heard technology over here. Yeah, totally. Technology is absolutely transforming our world right now. There are a lot of things. So when we think about change, the best way to navigate it is, cool, let's start thinking differently, let's start making some choices, and let's celebrate when we do make those choices. So at Butler Street, we're never going to be able to grow or change without what we call the 4 cornerstones of success. I do a lot of training. I did 673 hours of training last year. I'm probably going to do a lot more of that this year. I do a lot of training. And it doesn't matter if I'm training teams on sales or recruiting, account management, leadership, they all start with these. the 4 cornerstones of success. Because I can't train recruiters if they're not in the right headspace, if they're not making the right choices. Same with sales, account managers. So when we think about the 4 cornerstones of success, the first thing we got to do is get this ball of mush in our skulls in the right place. If we don't feed it the right energy, life's just an uphill climb. So we focus on attitude and personal accountability. Now, once you focus on getting your mind right, that's when you can say, cool, my mind's in the right place. Let's start to focus on getting these actions right. And so with that, we talk about perseverance and habit. I love this last animation. All connected, right? You will never develop good habits if you have a terrible attitude. Good luck with that. You'll never persevere, strive to get a little bit better every day if you're not personally accountable and you just make excuses all the time. So, if you can focus on all 4 of these and make them a priority in your life, pretty cool things start happening. So, we are going to start with attitude. Attitude is the gate to the mind. It lets learning and experience in. It also allows us to embrace change and say, cool, I like that idea. Let's build on that. You have to have that mindset. You have to have that attitude. When somebody says, let's try something drastically different, and you hear that voice in your mind that says, no, thank you. We've always done things this way, no, thank you. That's a voice you need to squash in your brain, because that's what's holding you back. We got a saying at Butler Street we love to say, which is no change, no change. If you do not make any changes in your approach, do not expect any changes in your results. We're big on change at Butler Street. Literally, our company from a year ago looks very different from today. We are changing rapidly because the world around us is changing rapidly. Advance. There we go. Oh. All right, so you heard yes, and. We're going to explore that now. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to get into groups of 3. You don't have to move, okay? And if we've got 2 groups of 2, that's fine. It doesn't particularly matter. So get in at least a group of 3 or a pair, preferably a group of 3. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to make eye contact with that stranger and say, we are now partners. 30 seconds begins now. Who does not have another person that they can communicate with in this exercise? Anybody on an island all alone by themselves? With Wilson, the volleyball. Okay, good. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to plan a party, okay? So later on tonight, there's going to be a gigantic party. The budget that you'll be working with is $5 billion. And I feel like I need to do that Mike Myers thing. All right, so your budget is $5 billion. Now, here's what I want everybody to do is in each group, I need one person in each group to raise their hand. Do that for me now. One person in each group. Raise your hand. Okay? Yep. That's a fun little exercise in and of itself. Some of you are like, I will be that person. Some of you are like, do you want to maybe, I should, wait, you want to, I can, we can, okay, we got to raise our hand. We're all different. All right, if you just raised your hand, you are going to make suggestions for your party, okay? There's going to be 3 rounds to this party planning process, and in each round, only one person in the group is making the suggestions. So if you just raised your hand, you get to make suggestions. Now, what do I mean by suggestions? What are we drinking? What are we eating? Where is it going to be? Activities, entertainment, giveaways at the end of the party. Everybody could get a Bentley. It's a $5 billion budget, okay? Now, those of you who raised your hand, that's your job, is to make a suggestion, but then I want you to wait for your partners to respond. Everybody else, your responses must begin with the words, no, because. No, because. So if somebody in your group said, hey, we should have lobster at our party, someone might say, no, because those are just insects that live in the ocean. They're disgusting. Okay? Now, if you're the person making the suggestions, you will allow your partners to respond. Then you're going to go to your second suggestion. It might be, hey, all right, well, we should have our party in Australia. And your partners might say, no, because the wildlife there will straight up kill you. Then you go to your third suggestion, fourth, fifth. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes for this first round. So if you raised your hand, make a suggestion, let people respond with no because, then the rest of your response, then go to your next suggestion, so on and so forth. And begin! All right, so let's talk about round two. Round two. So I need someone else in the group to raise their hand. Round two. Yeah, the hands go up a lot faster that time. They're like, yeah, I get it. I'm on board. I know what we're doing now. I'm not terrified. All right, so in each group, we've got one person who just raised their hand. You are party planning in round two. You know the drill. Make a suggestion. But this time, your partners or partner will respond starting with the words, yes, but. You have to begin your reply with the words, yes, but. Okay? So, if I said, hey, I think we should have like matching sweatsuits at our party. I think it would be super cool. My partner might be like, yes, but really? Matching sweatshirts? How about like nice cocktail attire? Or I might say, I don't know, we should do a hot air balloon. And my partner might say, yes, but people might be afraid of heights, and then sickness happens, and we don't need to deal with that, okay? So if you just raised your hand, you're going to make the suggestion. Everybody else in your group will begin their replies with the words, yes, but. Give you about another 90 seconds to do this round and begin. Okay, third and final round. Third and final round. If you are in a pair and you were the first person that made suggestions, you will also be making suggestions in this third round, okay? So it's like, yeah, you got it. Make suggestions again. If you have not raised your hand yet, shame on you. Shame, I'm kidding. If you've not raised your hand yet, you will be making suggestions. Basically, if you've not made suggestions for your party yet, that's you. You get to do it, which means in this foursome, two of you get to make suggestions. Just share. All right, now, how this is going to work is one of you, or two of you in this group, you'll make your suggestion. But this time, every reply from everybody else must begin with those words, yes, and. Okay? Yes, and. So if my partner were to say, I think we should have a big concert at our party, I might say, yes, and we should get Twisted Sister from the 80s. That's how my party goes down. You've got your own party, okay? No judgment. So again, if you haven't party planned yet, make your suggestion. Everybody else, you got to begin your reply with the words, yes, and. And I see some of you on Spotify looking up Twisted Sister. Stop. Focus on the exercise. Yes, and begin. Let's talk about it. Let's go all the way back to round one. This was the no because round. Let's keep these words clean, but give me a single word you would use to describe the no because round. Discouraging. Negative. Rejection, defeating. Disheartening. These are big words. 75 cents easy. What else? Unproductive. Looks like we've exhausted the list of words used to describe that round. Not uncommon. You're like, I don't even want to think about it. It was horrible. All right, so let's talk about yes, but. How is yes, but different? I'll come to this side of the room. How is the yes, but round different? How did it feel? A little bit more collaborative, okay? What else? Yes, but. Possibilities. Encouraging. Hopeful. Anybody have any negative feelings towards yes, but? Yeah. Say it again. Yeah. Inadequate. Authoritative. Yeah, anybody feel like the words, say it again? Dismissive. Yeah, dismissive. So the second round is kind of confusing because we have the emergence of yes, that feels good, but then the but arrives. Anybody feel like the words yes, but was really just the word no, but this time covered in cake frosting, and you're like, wait a second. Ugh, that's just the word no. Super confusing. Yeah, sometimes you make some progress, but more often than not, it just kind of feels clunky and weird. So let's talk about yes and. This is the third round. Give me some words to describe yes and. Productive. Collaborative. Fun. Energizing. Exciting. Encouraging. Say it again. Synergistic. Love it. That's a big word. $1.50. $1.50. We'll put a check in the mail. Yeah. Yes and feels a lot better. Did anybody plan a party that HR would not have approved of? It happens. Yeah, I heard some of the suggestions. I was like, no, you can't do that. Yes, you can. So, no. No's very damaging. Yes, but you will hear yourself say yes, but a whole bunch after today's session. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I say yes, but all the time. So in improv, yes and is a mindset. It is the central concept that you have to master in order to be an improv comedian. But because if I walk out on stage with my scene partner and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in the jungle right now. And my scene partner says, no, we're not. We're on aisle 10 at Target. This is literally how I feel. I'm like, really? So then I'm going to be like, we're in the jungle on aisle 10 in Target. Well, this is a nightmare. But if I say, oh my gosh, we're in the jungle, and my scene partner says, yes, and they're the ancient ruins we've been trying to find. Cool. Now we're on the same page. We're cooking. So when we think about yes and, it really is this idea of you just contributed something. I recognize that. But the and is really important. Anybody ever seen an email that goes out? It's like, hey, it's Tammy's birthday next week. We should do something. And people are like, yes, awesome. Let's do it. The person sending the email is like, okay, I guess I'll do all the planning and make this happen because everybody's on board, but nobody's contributing. But if somebody would just say, yes, and Tammy loves barbecue, and I got a place that does barbecue by my house. It's the best barbecue in town. I'll bring it with some champagne. Now we're cooking. Now we're moving. So this is a huge concept if you are going to navigate change. Because in order to change, we have to have the courage to throw out ideas. But we have to know that those ideas will be yes-anded. Because if you keep saying no or yes but to me, I will no longer share those ideas. I'm going to go back to my cube, my desk, and just keep my head down. So yes and is a mindset. Anybody have that friend where you text them and you're like, hey, happy hour on Friday? ? And they're like, maybe. I can't stand that person. But then you text your other friend and you're like, happy hour on Friday? ? And they're like, yes. Let's go to that bar that serves tiki drinks and it rotates. Yes, that's the person who I want to hang out on Friday with. That's a yes and person. That's somebody who gets it. They're like, let me open myself up to ideas. Let me accept what's been presented, but then let me add to the story, because that's when the real growth happens. Many of you said the word collaborative to describe yes and. Yep, that's the word that I would use. That's what real collaboration looks like. Now, some of you are like, I can't agree to everything, Robert. Welcome to the real world. That's not what yes and is. It's not agreement. It's simply accepting that somebody just said something and being willing to explore it. So maybe a provider says, I'm not doing call. So deal with that. How do you use yes and for that? If all of your jobs require call, you say yes and appreciate you sharing that with me. And I want to explore some options where maybe if you had to do call, we could offset it with something that would be really attractive to you. Like we cover travel or malpractice insurance, whatever it is. Versus, well, this isn't going to work. Or, yeah, but you're never going to find a job with that requirement. So start thinking about how can you use yes and replace the words no or yes but. You start to become a yes and person, pretty cool things happen in your life. This is cornerstone number 1, attitude. Let's talk about cornerstone number 2. Personal accountability. This one's a doozy because of this. People fail in direct proportion to their willingness to accept socially acceptable excuses for failure. And so these excuses typically sound like this: I would be successful if it were not for blank. Fill in the blank. I would be successful if it were not for blank. What are the excuses that we hear in our industry? This is when you talk. Rate, client. What else? Tariffs. The tariffs on doctors. Market. Yeah, market conditions. What else? Location. Yeah, like this hospital is in the middle of the boonies. I'd be successful if it were maybe near anything. Credentialing. Why does this always take so long? Like I'd be crushing it if we just speed up that process, because I can't get providers to agree to go through the process because they're not willing to wait. Lot of excuses, and a lot of them tie to the challenges that you mentioned at the beginning of the speech. So my question to you is, raise your hand if you think there's somebody in our industry who's crushing it right now despite those same challenges. Do we think that person exists? Someone who's like, yeah, I'm crushing, I'm hitting my quota, I'm making bonus, I'm rocking and rolling. That person exists. And I believe they have this mindset: not today, bucko. This is what I say when an excuse enters my brain. Yes, I was raised on Clint Eastwood movies. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was managing an on-site with JP Chase in downtown Chicago. It actually had nothing to do with banking. It had to do with a government project, temporary protected status. Citizens of other countries have a natural disaster, they can come to the United States for temporary protected status. Anyway, not a hard job to recruit for. It was like data entry, general clerical, but the background check was gnarly. It's the hardest background check I've ever had to clear people through. They had to get 7-year government clearance. They had to have near perfect credit and a drug test. And I remember when I took over the account, the departing account manager said, "Good luck with this nightmare. We will never be successful with this account. Only 10% of our people pass the background check." You know what I said? Not today, bucko. Really, it's just a word choice. It's like, no thank you, so stupid, not dealing with that. I refuse. So what I did is I reached out to the JP Morgan Chase leadership team and I said, hey, I need to talk to the investigators. They're like, nobody talks to the investigators. I was like, cool. So when can I talk to the investigators? Let's go. I spent an hour on the phone with the investigators and I drilled them. I was like, I need to know everything that disqualifies a candidate for this job. We did background check, credit check, drug test. I went back to my desk and I said, I am no longer qualifying people for this job. I'm disqualifying people for this job. So what I did is I took the world that we live in and I flipped it on its axis. And I said, if I keep trying to qualify people, I'm just going to keep running into the same results. So now every candidate that I talk to, my goal is to convince them to not take the job. Basically, it was like, here's the thing, I'm going to lay this out for you. The background check's really tough. If you've got any of this stuff, it's going to be a disqualifier. The credit check, really tough. These will all be disqualifiers. If you can't do that, no problem. I got other jobs. If at the end of that conversation, they're like, no, I'm good. I was like, ooh. There's a good chance this person's going to pass this screening. And so that was the adjustment I made. And it took time, but we went from a 10% clearance rate to a 90% clearance rate. And it all started with, not today, bucko. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that the challenges you're dealing with are super tough, but the first choice you need to make is just say, not today, bucko. We'll find a way. Let's put our heads together, because someone is doing it. We can all agree that someone is finding success despite these same challenges, which means we're in a rigid way of thinking. Open up. Let's start thinking differently. And weave in a little yes and pretty cool things will happen. So, next improv exercise. What I want you to do is you're going to get up for this one, lock eyes with somebody. You're getting into pairs. 30 seconds to stand up, find a partner. Raise your hand. If you thought that was surprisingly challenging, raise your hand if you were like, why is it so hard for me to come up with literally any other word in the English language? That is because, can I borrow your sunglasses? That is because since we learned the word sunglasses, that is what this has been. It has always been sunglasses. For us to say Chihuahua, Happy Meal, VW Bug, it's challenging for us because we are rewiring our brain. We're asking our brain to do something we're not that familiar with. But let me ask you this. If you give yourself the freedom to say, those are no longer sunglasses, it is a Happy Meal, what's happening in your brain? Forming new connectors. Yeah, what else? Questioning it. Yeah. You're giving yourself the freedom to look at the thing you've always seen as this way as just simply something different. You want to make changes? That's how you have to look at problems. That's what I did. I, as a recruiter, my goal was always to qualify candidates. But I said, I can't do that anymore. That's not working. Let me take this world I've always lived in and flip it on its axis. Let me just try something different. So when you think about the challenges that you're facing, just simply label them differently. Look at them differently. If you're tired of how your same approach is just not yielding those results, look at things differently. You live in this world. We're very comfortable with this world. When you flip it on its axis, you step into the realm of, I don't know what's going on here. That makes us nervous. But that's when you start to make those changes. So, goofy little exercise, but I think we can all agree, a kind of difficult exercise. Unlock that part of your brain. Then you'll be able to start to problem solve more effectively. Okay. So I want to address the elephant in the room. I can tell many of you, you're looking at your phones, you're not paying attention to the speech anymore, your eyes are glossed over, and we just need to get this out here, okay? What you're probably thinking about is, who does this guy remind me of? It's on a lot of your brains, I know it. So let's just get that over with. It's probably Alton Brown's Celebrity Chef, okay? So maybe we can move past this moment, but if you're not convinced, it's David Hyde Pierce from Frasier, okay? But some of you are like, no, that's still not it. It's something in the eyebrows, probably Bill Hader. I get that a lot. And if it's none of those, it's Fabio. That's the one I get a lot as well. All right. Glad we got that elephant squashed. Perseverance. Anybody read the book Atomic Habits? Great book. Read it. It's really cool. So, some of you might be familiar with this story. There was a professor at the University of Florida, my alma mater, big win last night, who was running a photography class. And so what he did is the professor said, cool, this side and then this side. That's how we're going to divide it. So this side you are group A, this side you are group B. Okay? So group A, your assignment this semester is I want you to just turn in one photograph. So you'll actually be graded on a single photograph. Okay? Group B, your assignment this semester is you'll actually be graded on how many photographs you can turn in. Okay? So, a lot of photographs. So at the end of the semester, who turned in a higher quality photo? Single photograph, lots of photographs. If you think it was a single photograph, raise your hand. Got a couple hands, got a couple hands. If you think it was group B, tons and tons of photographs, raise your hand. Yeah. Group B. Group B turned in a higher quality photograph because Group A, these students were in their dorm rooms thinking about photography. They're like, wait a second, I got to get the perfect lens, the perfect subject, the perfect lighting, the perfect assistant. You don't need an assistant. Group B is out there snapping photos away like bam, 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 bam. And with each attempt, they're making adjustments. They're getting a little bit better. So who remembers their very first cold call? Who remembers their very first interview or the very first difficult conversation you had as a leader? I remember my first interview. My boss at Ronstadt was like, hey, that phone's ringing, pick it up. I was like, I am new. This is a terrible idea. I just graduated college. I am not qualified to do this. So I answered the phone. Good morning, this is Ronstadt. Robert, how can I help you? Yeah, I'm looking for work. I understand. What kind of work are you looking for? Looking for positions in IT. To which I said, what does IT stand for? Crash and burn. I also remember that my boss was like, all right, you got to start doing sales. And I was like, wait, the e-learning, I should go through it 10 more times. Let me shadow Melanie a little bit longer. She's great. No, pick up the phone, start calling. I don't remember the first sales call, but I remember the nausea I felt. Anybody remember that first cold call and you're like, oh my gosh, I am about to lose it. I am so nervous. But we did it. Probably got our butts kicked. That client was probably like, call me back when you're better at this. Jeez, Manelli. But yeah, you did that interview. You made that call and it led to the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the millionth. And we get better each time. You are going to use yes and to accept ideas that are going to make you nervous. You are going to take the world and flip it on its axis, and that will feel uncomfortable. But it is the act of doing, fighting to get a little bit better every single day, that will lead to that progressive improvement. Some of you are in a wait and see holding pattern. That's a big mindset right now with AI. Still today, people are like, I'm just going to see how that works out. No, you can't do that. It's transforming our world. So, when we think about perseverance, it really is this idea of get a little bit better every day. Last cornerstone, habit. The difference between the successful person and the unsuccessful person is this: the successful person is simply in the habit of doing the things the unsuccessful person does not do. Remember those excuses, those challenges, and we all agreed that somebody's doing it? It's their habits. They prepare more. They pick up the phone a whole lot more. Heck, they just walk into doctor's offices and says, you interested in a locums opportunity? They do it. They get out there. It's habits. So, read that book, Atomic Habits. It's great. To form a habit takes 21 days, which means for 21 days it's going to feel awkward, clunky, and not fun. If you can get to that 21st day, something happens. The mind and the body says, geez, this feels like a habit. Let's pay attention. You get to 66 days, it becomes muscle memory. Anybody ever been to the grocery store and you pull into the parking spot and you put it into park and you go, wait, how did I get here? I don't remember driving. This is terrifying. You don't have to think about driving. You don't have to say, okay, let's go ahead and put a little pressure on that gas. Wait, brake. Now a little bit more. You don't have to do that because it is muscle memory. Think about the difficult changes you have to make in your life. Push to get to 66 days. That's what it'll feel like. You'll make that change. To wrap up the 4 cornerstones, we're going to talk about this big jerk. Nick Saban whooped up on my Gators so many times I don't want to think about it. I lose sleep. I wake up in like just a flop sweat. But I have a deep respect for Nick Saban. Heck of a football coach. He's got this great quote, win your play. It says, ignore the scoreboard. Don't worry about winning. Just focus on doing your job at the highest level on every single play, and those wins will follow. If you win your play, the guy next to you wins his play, and so on, scoreboard takes care of itself. And really what he's saying is, he pulls his quarterback down and he says, it is not your job to block the other team. Stop worrying about that. Let the offensive linemen win their play. Your job is the proper footwork, the proper spiral, looking for the open man. That's the only thing you can control, so focus on that. You have a lot of win your play moments in your day. And we make a choice to be meh in those moments, or we have the option of being exceptional in that moment. You're flipping of the world. You're trying yes and. You're thinking differently. You got to fight to be exceptional in all those little win your play moments if you are going to get out of the trough you might be experiencing today. So you got to figure out what you can control. You cannot control market conditions. Stop worrying about them. Adjust. Find ways of being successful despite those same market conditions. Operating reality is another concept that we share in all of our trainings, and I believe it is one of our single most important concepts. Understand the customer's operating reality. This is being able to see problems and opportunities as it appears through their eyes. Anybody ever driven on an interstate before? Oh, a lot of you. This is going to work. Great. Anybody ever experienced the left lane sitters? Yeah, hot button topic, I can tell. Some of you are like, I can't talk about it right now. These are people who choose to sit in the left-hand lane, which is meant for passing, and they cause congestion, they cause accidents, and they cause us to lose our mind. But then you see the person who, they're coming up right behind you, they get in the left-hand lane, but then they make that choice to get back to the middle lane after they have passed you. They're actually thinking about other drivers when they make that choice. Because they're thinking, I'm going fast, but I may not be the fastest. Let me just play the game and just look out for other people. This is operating reality. You're making choices based on the other person. Want to discover how to evolve in this changing landscape? This is your mantra. It's our mantra. If we solve our customers' problems, we will solve our own. You've got problems. You want to find the new provider. You want to land the deal. You want to make the placement. Those are important, but if that's all you're thinking about, it's going to fall flat. Because this is your mantra. If we solve our customers' problems, we will solve our own. You have two sets of customers, clients and providers. It won't go back. There it is. Two words that I think are really important in our industry: genuine interest. Really, you connect with that customer or that provider, and like you genuinely want to get to know them. You really want to connect with them. You really want to solve their problems. This is operating reality. And if that's the mindset that you have, then what's going to happen is you're really going to focus on solving their problems. And when you solve their problems, they scratch your back and solve your problems. What's our number one problem? Make money. You focus on solving other people's problems, they will continue to give you those monies. What are their needs and wants? This is the first question you just have to ask. This is actually an exercise that we do in our training when we talk about operating reality. It's like, okay, I want you to make a list. What are their needs and wants? Start with that. What is a provider's needs and wants? What is an administrator of a hospital? What are their needs and wants? Let's just list them out, and then let's start to brainstorm, how can we do a better job of just solving those problems? How can we make them more efficient, more productive, more profitable, happier? You do that, and great things happen. Active listening. This is the first step, because if you don't listen to what people are saying, you'll never be able to solve their problems. Now, oftentimes when we learn about active listening, somebody's like, here's the definition to active listening. Good luck. You're going to do great. Not at Butler Street. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 quick improv-based exercises. I'm not going to make you stand up this time. Oh, thank goodness. Just find a partner, groups of 2s. Give you about 15 seconds, and give me somebody you've worked with already. Yeah, this, very easy. You're like, done, done, done. All right, 10 seconds. Find that partner. You got to be in groups of 2 this time. Got to be in groups of 2. So, how would we describe this exercise? Throw out some words. I'm big on descriptors. I love words. Funny. Creative. Listening, nonstop. It's hyphenated, it'll work. What else? Thought-provoking. Again, hyphenated. We're good so far. Difficult. Totally. I heard something in the back. Peculiar. Yeah. Who said difficult? You said difficult? Why is it difficult? Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. I'm sure many of you are like, this is super weird. Yeah, I think it's by design. It's by design. Because I don't want to tell you the goal before you do the exercise. Anybody get a word where you were thinking, I don't know how it's possible to start a sentence with this word? Literally nobody can start a sentence with this word. What was that word? Shout them out. Day? Yeah. Me. Two. Experience. Say it again. Flunk. Yeah, I'm stumped on that one too. Yeah, anybody resort to caveman speak? Me like cheeseburger. I don't know, deal with it. It's just an exercise, people. Nobody's grading you. So why do we do this exercise? I heard listening over here. Cool. This is an active listening exercise. We know that. But what's happening in your brain? Think outside the box for sure. Working backwards, like that. Engaged. Anybody know the last word your partner was going to say before they said it? Any fortune tellers, soothsayers, seers in the group? None? So the rule, the guideline is that you must begin your reply with your partner's last word, which means you have to listen to all of the words. Anybody feel like it took you an eternity to respond and you're like, it's been a second and a half and I've not said anything yet and I'm sweating and I want to be done with this? Yeah, that's what happens when you do not think of what you want to say while the other person is talking. And that's what's so great about this exercise. You get to experience the choice you make in your brain when you actively listen, which is, I'm going to choose to not think of me, and what I want to say. Anybody ever been to a social gathering and you're talking to somebody and they say, yeah, my significant other and I just got a puppy, and you immediately go, oh my gosh, I have a dog. In a second, I'm going to talk about my dog and the sweater that I got at the beginning of the speech. And I throw the ball in the park. And all of that is going on in your head. It's this maelstrom of your thoughts. And the other person's still talking to you. And they're thinking in their brain, I hate talking to this kind of person. I can tell their eyes have glazed over. They're probably thinking about a puppy in the park. I can feel it. Yeah. In the improv world, we call this being in your head. And it's a killer. It's a killer for comedy. Because improv is a synapse by synapse art form. When I say something, my partner's got to be right on it, but they got to build on it. They got to further that story. If they're thinking of what they want to say, there's always this clunky disconnect. So, wait until the other person's done talking, then start to formulate your response. You'll find all the inspiration that you need is in the other person's words that they're sharing with you. That silence, by the way, is a great negotiation tactic. Roto-Rooter came to my house to fix a clogged sink, and they were like, I looked everything over, it's going to be about $400, to which I said, and he said, but we're running a special today, it's going to be $320. Bam. Saved so much money by just not saying anything to Gerald, the Roto-Rooter guy. Oh boy, where's my clicker? Did I set it down somewhere? Who's got my clicker? Here it is. Okay. Do that all the time. All right, last one. It's important that you said that because you're in the same pairs, okay? Now, in your pairs, one of you is going to start, and I want you to simply make a statement that a customer or clinician would make. Now, you're naturally going to go to objections because that's what we fret over the most. That's fine. Do a couple of those. But they also make tons of statements. They may say, hey, we're going to need some help with scheduling. Or that provider might say, yeah, I'm interested in some opportunities in the West Coast. Doesn't matter. But it's something that a clinician or a customer would say. Now, the other person in each group, you must begin your reply with these words. It's important that you said that because. Okay? Now, once you've had that back and forth, we've got the statement, the reply that begins with these words. And again, it's important that you said that because, and then take the rest of the reply, see where it goes. Then wipe the slate clean, switch roles. The person who replies, come up with a brand new statement, and then the other person replies with, it's important that you said that because. Wipe the slate clean, switch again. You'll probably get to go back and forth about 8 to 12 times before I call time. Cool? Just make sure all replies begin with the words you see on the screen. It's important you said that because. All right, begin. This is the last thing we're talking about today, this debrief. So let's talk about it. The wording is very specific. It's important you said that because. How does that impact you when you're having a conversation? How does it impact the conversation? The other person? What do we got, people? Validation, for sure. You're basically saying to that person, you just said something important. Good, that's going to make them feel good. What else? It totally gives you time to think of an answer. When you look at those words up there, that is a cheat code for your brain. That's why it feels like you've got that time to think. I gave you the exact words you need to give to your brain to drive a better conversation. Look at them. Are you going to listen if you know your reply begins with it's important you said that? You're absolutely going to be focused on the words that they're saying. Also, you implemented the last exercise that we just did. You've turned that part of your brain off that wants to think ahead. But yeah, when you actually say these words, the brain goes back and kind of reviews the conversation really quickly. It's like, okay, they mentioned this. I can label that as important. So by just simply saying, hey, it's important that you said that, boom. The brain is going to latch on to something that would be important to explore. And you just told that person they're important. Feels good. The because is really important. Because it would be super awkward if you went, hey, it's important that you said that because. Right? Feel how awkward that feels? The brain doesn't like that. So when the brain hears the word because, it kicks into gear and says, cool, I have to explain why that's important, or I have to choose to explore this further, or ask a deeper probing question. So when we think about this phrasing, every time I teach a beginning level improv class, guaranteed somebody comes up to me and they're like, I am really nervous, but I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. People told me, take an improv class. It helps you get better at communication. But what do I do if I freeze up and don't know what to say? I give them those words. Improvisers use those words when their brain hits that roadblock. They just say, it's important that you said that because, and then the brain kicks into gear. I, again, have mentioned that I do a lot of training, and the one area that I see that is really lacking in our industry, great questions, great conversations, I don't see that enough. And so when we think about driving a better conversation, when you are talking to providers, clinicians, customers about their challenges and looking for ways to navigate this changing landscape, this is a great word to simply drive a more effective conversation. Hey, it's important that you said that because. So, we are all CEOs of our own life and work. And every day we make or fail to make executive decisions that have immediate as well as far-reaching consequences. You're the CEO of your life. You're in the driver's seat. So when we think about this changing world that we are in, you're driving. Think about things like accept ideas that have been presented, embrace them, see how we can build on them. That leads to good and great things. Take that world you have always lived in, flip it on its axis. And remember, connection with other human beings is one of the most powerful choices that you can make. You've now got 2 improv exercises that are all about active listening. Do them with your team. You'll all become better listeners. So, that is it for me. Thank you so much for your willingness to do these improv-based exercises. It's been a joy. You can scan the QR code if you need any additional information about Butler Street, have any questions, hit us up. Thank you again so much. Thank you.